My best chance to do dirty fight?
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Never. Have you ever seen him fighting dirty?
Yes, I have.
Where?
All of your fights.
Welcome back to Fighting Words. I'm your host, Carissa Maxwell, joined as always by our senior combat writer, Andreas Hale, and senior combat editor, Tom Gray. Gentlemen, great to have you back. This is a big weekend in fighting. It is a battle for undisputed, not just with Devin Haney versus Vasyl Lomachenko, but also Katie Taylor versus Chantelle Cameron. Two really, really big fights with a lot of belts on the line. So before we kick things off with getting into the hard-hitting questions, gotta know, which fight are you most excited to watch?
Going to get in trouble here, but Haney Lomachenko, I think it's got to be. We've waited on it for so long. I love both fights, but if I had to jump off the cliff, I would say Haney Lomachenko.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm going to get in trouble too, but not, I mean, it's not for like sexist reasons, because people say, oh, you don't like women's boxing. I love women's boxing. Katie Taylor and Chantelle Cameron is a huge, huge fight, especially for women's boxing in general. But Haney Lomachenko dictates the future in men's boxing, because Devin Haney, as a lot of people forget, he's only 24 years old. The guy could beat Lomachenko, and now we talk about the face of boxing. So many things have changed. On the other hand, if Lomachenko wins, he is who he said he was, and he proves it once again. So I think that fight carries just a little bit more weight than Katie Taylor and Chantelle Cameron. Just a little bit.
So, I mean, I am obviously very excited for Katie Taylor, Chantelle Cameron, because they are both phenomenal, terrifying women. But we will get back to that. I will have my moment to talk about that fight. So let's dive into Haney Loma. This is a battle for the undisputed lightweight championship, coming off of an electric Gervonta Davis versus Ryan Garcia fight just a few weeks ago. So you bring up the age. Devin Haney, he is only 24 years old. He is 29-0. Not only is he 10 years younger than Loma, but he has 10 more fights under his belt. How does that factor into his success so far, and how should that, be considered as a serious threat to Vasyl Lomachenko?
Well, the reason that Haney has got more fights than Lomachenko is because Lomachenko turned very unique in that he turned professional at the world level. He fought for a world title in only his second fight. Devin Haney had a long learning curve. I mean, he was exceptionally talented straight out of the gate, but he took his time as a professional, was fighting very regularly when he was a prospect, whereas Lomachenko, because he was 396-1 as an amateur, he didn't require a professional learning curve. There was nothing that he didn't know about boxing when he turned over pro. So most of his fights have been championship level fights. The reason you've perfectly illustrated it. The reason that Haney is a major threat is because of his youth and because of his size. He's a natural lightweight, unlike Lomachenko, who's risen up through the weights. He's jumped up from featherweight. So Lomachenko still to this day, even at 35 years old, could still make 130. But Haney is an exceptional young talent, never defeated, all the confidence in the world, and he's the favourite coming into this fight. He's a major league threat, and he's understandably the favourite coming in.
Yeah, I mean, echoing everything that Tom said. I mean, Devin Haney is big. He's a big lightweight. I don't know how much longer he'll be at 135 pounds. This could be his last fight at 135 pounds. But skill-wise, we all know what Vasyl Lomachenko has, but we know what Lomachenko has dealt with in terms of size. When he fought Orlando Salido, he was too small. When he fought Teofimo Lopez, he was considered too small. Now he's fighting somebody else who has a size advantage and a healthy youth advantage. Skill-wise, we will never take anything from Lomachenko, granted, no matter how old he is until he reaches that 40 plateau. It doesn't seem like he's tapered off. But Devin Haney, I think, is vastly underrated in the skills department. So this is a very complicated fight to pick. I think it's the most interesting fight, more interesting than Ryan Garcia and Gervonta Davis's fight for those very reasons. But again, it dictates the future of boxing. The age is nothing but a number, but I don't know if that necessarily applies here.
You mentioned Loma. He is a former unified lightweight champion. Of course, Devin the Dream Haney is the current undisputed lightweight champion. So this is a big fight. And you say Devin Haney, he is maybe a little underrated in the skill set. But are we counting Loma out too quickly too? Is he underrated? Are we playing too much into his age and his has-been status? Or does he really have a chance to give Devin Haney a run for his money and his belts?
Yeah, I think you touch on an interesting point. I think that he's been criminally underrated coming into the fight, because really, what do we have to go on here? Like, he didn't look very good against Teofimo Lopez, but he went straight in for shoulder surgery immediately after that fight. Since then, he's destroyed two opponents, Nakatani and Komi. The Ortiz fight, he was very poor. I think he could have lost that fight, but war has broken out in his country. He's been over in the Ukraine. He comes in completely demotivated and turns in a horrible performance. I don't think we see the same fighter coming in against Devin Haney, not in a million years. Lomachenko's tail will be up for this one. And if Lomachenko is anything over 70%, then I think Devin Haney has his work cut out for him.
Man, this one's complicated, man, because on one hand, I would say that Lomachenko's underrated heading into this fight. But the question is, has he been overrated his entire career? And the reason why I say that is he came in as an amateur, obviously with that pristine record with only one loss that he avenged multiple times. But he was number one on the Ring Magazine pound for pound list. He was number one on a lot of people's pound for pound list. He has a couple of losses. I'm concerned about what Lomachenko really is. We've seen him look phenomenal. Nicholas Walters, for instance, Guillermo Rigondeaux, even though he was much bigger than Rigondeaux that night. But the question is, what is Vasyl Lomachenko at 35? He hasn't had a ton of pro fights. He's lost a couple. Sometimes he looks unmotivated. Against somebody like Richard Comey, who should have gotten out of there, he kind of plays with his food because he knows how good he is. And that's kind of frustrating. Because when you know how good you are and you think you can finish a fight at any time, you can lose. That's what happened with Teofimo Lopez. So he's maybe underrated heading into this fight. But if he loses, I think the real question is, was Vasyl Lomachenko overrated? Because a lot of people said he was the most skilled boxer we had seen come out of the amateurs, and that'd be his third loss already. I don't know.
So Devin Haney, he is the favorite to win this fight. So if he does win, then the natural next opponent that I think everybody wants to see is Gervonta Davis versus Devin Haney for that, huge lightweight fight, which I'm cringing the fact that I'm even going to say this sentence again because I thought this was buried in the past, but is the winner of a Devin Haney Gervonta Davis fight the actual face of boxing moving forward, Canelo aside? Is that the fight that deserves all the hype?
I don't know who made up the face of boxing topic, but I wish they'd parked it. I mean, I still no. I think that's another career-defining fight. But to match someone like Canelo, who's had several career-defining fights, you just need to do more than that. I don't think we should be in a rush. Let's just hope that there's multiple faces of boxing. Even Devin Haney against Tank. No, I don't think that would necessarily mean that the winner is the face of boxing.
I'm going to say no, but it's not necessarily because of what Tom says, because the fight ain't happening next, or maybe not even anytime soon. I genuinely think Gervonta Davis is about to go back into this path of fighting other fighters that, aren't Devin Haney's right now to continue to, I don't want to say pad his record because he's wildly talented, but it is what it is. You got to do business with Devin Haney, who's currently with Top Rank, and who knows where he ends up with a promoter. But if that fight were to happen, it seems like it would be years down the line. Whereas judging off of Canelo's last performance, maybe Canelo's not here 2 years from now. And maybe it could be for the face of boxing. But it ain't happening tomorrow. I don't think the fight happens this year. I don't think it even happens in 2024. So if Devin Haney's going to fight Gervonta Davis for the face of boxing, it'll probably be when Canelo's long gone.
Good point.
I do want to circle back to this Katie Taylor-Chantelle Cameron fight because this is also a fight for undisputed in the super lightweight division. Of course, Katie Taylor, she is already the undisputed lightweight champion. And this fight was originally scheduled to be against Amanda Serrano in the highly anticipated rematch. Of course, Amanda had to drop out because of injury, but that did not stop Katie from taking on a serious and dangerous opponent. Instead of just filling this with a fluff fight, she is challenging Chantelle Cameron for the undisputed super lightweight titles. On paper, Chantelle Cameron is a serious threat. We currently have her ranked number 4 on the Sporting News pound for pound list. Of course, Katie Taylor is number 2. But I'm not going to lie, as a big Katie Taylor fan, looking at her stats, looking at the power that she has, I am scared for Katie Taylor going into this fight. What do you guys make of this fight? And should Katie Taylor and her fans really take Chantelle Cameron as a serious threat for her undefeated record?
Yeah, 100% they need to take her seriously. I think Katie and her team will know that. Chantelle Cameron is a class act. Brilliant technique, like you say, good hitting power. She's got all the moves. You don't get into the top 5 in a pound for pound list unless you've earned it. She's undisputed for a reason. She beat top quality opposition to get there, including Jessica McCaskill in her most recent fight. And McCaskill was undisputed at welterweight. So without question, Chantelle is a class act. Katie has already won a title at 140 before, but Chantelle Cameron's a much better operator than she's been in with at this weight. The one thing that I hope is, I think it's going to be a close fight. I think it's going to be an exceptional fight. I just hope that if Chantelle does enough to win this fight, that she gets a decision, because in terms of judging, you need to be as brave as a judge in Mexico going against Canelo as you would be to go against Katie Taylor in Dublin. And that, I know I sound like a cynic. We always say things like home cooking. If Katie wins it, I hope she earns it. If she doesn't, I hope it goes to Chantelle Cameron. But it's an absolutely brilliant fight.
Tom, you hit on something that you said Canelo. This fight makes me immediately think about Canelo fighting Bivol, moving up another weight class. Canelo being a big favorite, people are undermining Bivol, and then when the fight happens, the size, skill, and technique were vastly underrated from the lesser-known fighter, and the lesser-known fighter wins. The caveat that you just mentioned is true. Katie Taylor is fighting in her home country. Chantelle Cameron might have to finish her to win this fight, but I think this is credit to Katie Taylor. She's nuts. I wouldn't have taken this fight. You're jeopardizing the Amanda Serrano fight by jumping up another weight class with a bigger woman who is stronger, who is cleaned out this division, is destroying people. And you're going to take that challenge right before Amanda Serrano? You're nuts. Credit to her. Problem is, Chantelle Cameron is a serious threat. The power, the aggressiveness, the size, all these things may work against Katie Taylor, who doesn't have knockout power, who won't be able to get Chantelle off of her. I'm picking Chantelle Cameron to win this fight. I just don't know if the judges will agree with me. And we've seen our fair share of home cooking decisions, and I'd hate for that to happen to Katie Taylor. But Katie's going to have to fight the perfect fight to come out of this one unscathed in the public eye. If this fight is remotely close and people think that Chantelle won, people are going to say it's home cooking. Katie's going to have to dominate, and I don't think that's going to happen. Chantelle's probably going to come out of the one looking better no matter what happens, unless she gets shut out by Katie Taylor.
We should mention, by the way, that Katie's got a win over Chantelle in the amateurs. I don't know how much that will mean when they go at it as pros, but she did beat her as an amateur.
Yeah, she did. I don't know if it'll matter. I don't know if it'll matter. Yeah. Chris, you love Katie Taylor. Everybody loves Katie Taylor. She's a huge star. Conor McGregor's backing Katie Taylor in this fight. But this feels like a trap fight. This feels like that fight that Canelo had against Bivol, just like Katie Taylor. Katie Taylor won at 140 pounds, and then now she's returning. But when Canelo beat Sergey Kovalev was washed up. Then he fought somebody real at light heavyweight, and then we saw what happened to Canelo Alvarez. The same thing could happen to Katie Taylor.
Yeah, Katie's 35 years old now, a lot of miles on the clock, a lot of very, very hard fights. She took 10 fights worth of punishment against Serrano, whereas, Chantelle has got nowhere near that many miles on the clock. So that could be another thing that's telling.
I definitely do have that same gut feeling going into this fight as I had going into the Canelo Bivol fight, as thinking, Dimitri Bivol could actually win this thing. So, Andreas, I'm kind of right there with you. I do love Katie Taylor. I do love Chantelle Cameron, too. She's a huge Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I mean, what millennial woman isn't? So, gotta love and respect that. But they are entering this ring perfect with a combined 39-0 record, but only one of them will walk out retaining that undefeated perfect record. So before we go into prediction for the Haney-Loma fight, let me get your solid prediction for Katie Taylor versus Chantelle Cameron, May 20th at the 3 Arena in Dublin, streaming live on DAZN.
Chantelle Cameron wins the fight and doesn't get a decision.
Damn, I don't even know if that's a real pick, but I agree. Chantelle Cameron, she does enough to win the fight in the public eye. But those judges, on the other hand, not so much. Because here's the bigger issue. 2-minute rounds, man. 2-minute rounds are very hard to separate yourself from your opponent. And if these are close rounds, I figure the crowd noise and everything else is going to influence those judges. But I think Chantelle Cameron, even if she loses, we're all going to be saying her name come next week.
Yep. And she throws more jabs per round than any other of the top female boxers. So it is going to be an action-packed fight no matter what. But let's move back to Devin Haney versus Vasyl Lomachenko. Again, big fight for undisputed at lightweight. Devin Haney trying to retain those titles. Loma trying to get some of those belts back. What do we have for this fight? What is your prediction going into another May 20th fight at the MGM Grand Arena in Las Vegas, streaming live on ESPN Plus pay-per-view?
Yeah, I'm so tempted to go with the old man. I'm really tempted. I was watching highlights of him just before I come on here, and I'm so tempted to, but I need a win, because my predictions have been dreadful lately. I'm going to go with Haney on points. And by the way, I wouldn't be surprised if it went the same kind of way, where a lot of people think Lomachenko has earned the decision. He turns up, looks great, fights very, very well, or fights much better than we've seen him of late, gives Haney a nightmare, but doesn't get the decision. I hate to be the bearer of all these negative vibes, but that's where I see it. I'm going to stick with Haney on points.
I mean, listen, Tom, we just came off of Rolly Romero versus Ismael Barrasso, was probably one of the ugliest stoppages in boxing. So the negativity is well earned for the sport. Listen, I think Devin Haney, again, is vastly underrated. A lot of people talk about him like he's an afterthought, but he's a phenomenal fighter with a fantastic jab and size. I'm picking him to beat Lomachenko. My problem with Lomachenko is he knows how good he is, and he spins around. I hate this cliche term, downloading information. And if you download information to get somebody like Devin Haney, you're going to find yourself behind quite a few rounds, and you're going to be working from underneath. And if that's the case, Devin Haney is going to win a close decision, but it's going to be one that I don't necessarily think is going to be disputed. I'm picking Devin Haney to remain the undisputed champion by defeating Lomachenko on points in what I think will be a fun fight, but it won't be the barn burner that some people may expect.
I do think we need to start keeping track of our predictions so that we can see who among you.
This year, please. Not this year.
Got to keep our own records. But it's a big week for boxing. Battle for undisputed with two big fights. Katie Taylor versus Chantelle Cameron on DAZN, and Devin Haney versus Vasyl Lomachenko on ESPN Plus. It's going to be a big weekend, and I'm sure we will have plenty to talk about with both of these fights on next week's episode of Fighting Words. But for now, for Fighting Words, I'm Carissa Maxwell. For Andreas, Hale, Tom Gray, we will see you next week.